Thank you, Heidi, very much. You've got a program in front of you. You might want to sit on it because I'm going to change a little bit on you. So I'm very honored to announce our next speaker, Nancy Kehoe.
Thank you, Diane and Heidi, for those powerful words. Recently, at the Kennedy Library here in Boston, Barack Obama was given the JFK Profile and Courage Award. Well deserved for a man of integrity who led this country with courage and grace. But today we want to acknowledge another man who also deserves a Profile and Courage Award, Glenn Malloy. A man who has taken his own suffering and turned it into a commitment to honor those whom society will never honor. In fact, by burying them without names, they have been dishonored. A dishonorable discharge from life. Glenn's vision, determination, ability to work against innumerable odds is a model that is a challenge for all of us to emulate. But I know he doesn't want the spotlight on him and would say it was all a part of a group. But he and the others who have worked with him have brought us here to remember the countless men and women who are buried here, only with a number to mark their grave site, a little round number. We live in a society that is obsessed with numbers. The Dow Jones number, the number of tweets someone gets or sends, the number of people at an event, the number on your jersey if you are a famous sports star. Numbers that are all about fame, status, triumph, and competition. But the numbers here are just the opposite. They are numbers that hide a reality, not numbers that highlight a reality. And the reality they hide is a person who was called by name, who came into this world with potential, but someone whose potential may have been severely limited from day one by circumstances, by family illness, by poverty, or by the color of their skin. Or perhaps someone who had opportunity, but whose mental illness robbed him or her of a life, of a family, of opportunity, and so they ended up in a hospital, left by the side of the road as the victim in the Good Samaritan story. Let's just take a moment and think of the men and women who are buried here, and imagine what some of their lives were like, might have been like. The tragedy of not having a name for a person is that we don't have a history, a lineage, connections, no one to tell their story. Without a name, do we have a story? So let's just take a moment and think of the men and women. Maybe we knew some of them. We didn't know many of them, probably not 99% of them. But they all had a life and a story. We cannot tell their stories, but we can create new stories for those who live with mental illness. With our understanding that mental illness is a brain disorder, with our determination to work against the stigma that accompanies mental illness, with the commitment to keep working on issues of justice as they relate to mental illness, to those in prison who have a mental illness, we can make sure that individuals who suffer have a chance at a life and a name. An event like today can renew our commitment and passion to continue to work on behalf of all those who live with mental illness in whatever way we can, knowing that our work is more powerful when we work together. Those who live with a brain disorder, as those who live with other illnesses, are more than their illness. They have names, they have gifts, they have courage, compassion, and a resilience that is daunting. But the path for growth must be cleared by society by eliminating the stigma and seeing the person. Today we can feel a sense of hope, that as much needs to be done, we can reflect on the fact that we have made great progress, and that the efforts of individuals, families, organizations who have been affected by mental illness keep driving the mission forward. We are remembering those who died and were buried without a name. But for those of us who live with a faith in God, we know from Scripture that we have been called by someone who says, "Fear not, I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers they shall not overwhelm you. When you walk through fire, you shall not be burned, and the flame shall not consume you. I am the Holy One of Israel." That each of us is known intimately by the one who breathed life into us, and that one welcomed each of us, each of these men and women, home. For those who are here who may not have faith in a personal God, we can also say that a person's spirit is unique, that the release from the physical body means that the spirit has been released and now gives the world. And I'd like to end with a quote from a book that I was just reading called Just Mercy. And it's written by an African-American man who devoted his law career to defending predominantly African-American men in prison on death row and trying to get their release from death row and ultimately for some from prison. And he says, this is a quote he uses from Thomas Merton, "We are bodies of broken bones. I guess I'd always known but never fully considered that being broken is what makes us human. We all have our reasons. Sometimes we're fractured by the choices we make. Sometimes we're shattered by things we never would have chosen. But our brokenness is also the source of our common humanity, the basis for our shared search for comfort, meaning, and healing. Our shared vulnerability and imperfection nurtures and sustains our capacity for compassion. We have a choice. We can embrace our humanness, which means embracing our broken natures, and the compassion remains our best hope for healing." Thank you.